Hello, I'm Stan Hall. Welcome to this edition of the Gwinnett Sports Commission's Get in the Game. We love to talk about sports in this show, and we're certainly going to do that today. However, we're going to take a look at sports today from a bit of a different perspective. Today we're going to look at sports injuries, specifically sports concussion injuries. Our guest today is Kristen Crea, who is the director of the sports medicine program at Gwinnett Medical Center, and we're going to take a look at what's going on regarding this important concern. Welcome to the show, Kristen. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So let me just ask you the question that's curious to me and probably a lot of people who are watching today.
Sure.
We've been playing sports forever and ever and ever. We've played it the same way from day one until we did yesterday. Why all of a sudden is there so much concern on the issue concerning sports concussions?
Well, we get asked this question a lot at the Concussion Institute and with our athletes in general and their parents. I think the biggest thing is the raised awareness. Back a couple of years ago, we didn't know a lot about concussions. We knew a little bit. We knew how to manage it a little bit, but not until really the NFL, started coming out and speaking about concussions. College, NCAA came out and started speaking about concussions, was that awareness raised. And that pendulum just swung so far over to the other side, where we were not much awareness, now it's overhyped awareness.
Yeah.
And somehow we've got to get that to come back into the middle. But I think that's the biggest thing is the awareness.
So let me play devil's advocate just for a minute as a sports fan.
Sure.
And some people that I know who are really diehard sports fans say that all of this conversation and talk we hear about sports injuries is in some cases, they feel like it's ruining the game. The contact is less, the rules are being changed. I'm assuming you don't agree with that, but how would you respond to a person who makes that comment?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the game too. You don't get into the profession of sports medicine without being a fan of the game. So I don't necessarily want to see the rules changed and things like that either. Although I do think it's our job to make sure that, the sport is as safe as it can be. And I think that that's what they're trying to do by changing these rules, taking headers out of soccer and, the kickoff return rules that they've changed. And even in Georgia high school sports, they've changed two-a-days for different reasons, and they've changed the way that they can practice, whether they have contact or non-contact practice days. And so I think that they're making adjustments for the safety of the players, and I think that's what's really important. Not that we're changing the game. We don't want to have two-hand touch football.
Right.
But I think making some adjustments for the safety of the players is very important.
Well, and I guess the counter to that also would be that we're starting to see players who played in an earlier era who are now very much in the public's eye as far as brain injuries, to the point where some of them are completely incapacitated. Some of the players have died at a very early age, and only to find out that they had severe brain injury. So even though it appears that we're seeing so much relative to those who play the sport of football, concussion injury is certainly not focused just on football, right?
No, definitely not. We see concussions from every sport. Football, of course, is your most contact sport, so you're going to see a lot of concussions from football. But we see a lot from soccer, cheerleading, lacrosse, baseball. We cover the gamut in sports that we see concussions through. So it's not just football. I think football gets the bad rap because they're the big business and they have all the media's attention. But it's not just football by any means. But it is a high contact sport. I think back in the day, I think my grandfather played football, and his equipment that he wore was not anything compared to what they have now. And and he told me, promise me you'll never let your kids play football. But I'm a fan of the game. I'll let my kids play football. I think it's okay that they play football as long as they know how to properly tackle, they have the proper equipment. I think that plays a lot into it as well.
Well, and even with all the focus on some of these athletes coming out talking about their experiences and their problems that are occurring now based on them playing football,
Yes.
other people will still say, well, you sort of knew what you were signing up for when you did, and you got paid very nicely for that. So why now do you come back and say, oh, it's a dangerous sport?
Yeah, and I think that they did know what they signed up for to an extent. I also think that they knew what they were signing up for, but they didn't know the long-term effects that a concussion could have. They didn't know a possible CTE that could occur in later in their years. They didn't know that they'd have memory loss. They couldn't find their keys. They have no idea what they did with their phone, and they're having all these emotional disorders. I think that they knew what they were signing up for, but nobody knew those long-term effects that could happen, which is why you're seeing a lot of them come out now and say, why on earth am I 45 years old and I can't remember where I put my keys?
Right.
And so I think that that's what's going on with that.
Well, and even now, I'm hearing about things like some of these professional athletes are agreeing to have once they have passed and are deceased, they're obviously having things like their brains donated for future study. So we still really don't know all of the effects, do we?
We don't. And that's the one thing about CTE. When the movie Concussions came out, everyone that walked through our door, that was the first question that they had is my kid going to have CTE, or am I going to have CTE? And the truth is we don't know, because the way that you diagnose CTE is postmortem. So, that's the difficult part about it is that, I can't look at him versus him and say, you're going to have CTE and you're not, because we don't know.
Right.
We really, truly don't know what causes it. They have speculations if you start playing sports at a younger age and receive multiple concussions.
Right.
But that's not always a fact as well. So we have a lot of research that still needs to be done about the effects.
Because there are athletes who have played for an extended period of time that have no complications.
Right.
And there's others who play the same period of time who have severe complications.
Right.
So.
Right. That's exactly right.
And if you think about the conversation regarding concussion still related to football at this point, it already has an impact on the game. Not necessarily the rules, but the equipment. I was just watching a game the other day where they had some footage from a practice, and they're wearing different type helmets in practice as they do on the field. So it already has had an impact, hasn't it?
I think so. I think it's had a big impact, and I think it's for the best. If we can get better helmets on these players, if we can get better pads, if we can teach them better technique, that's a huge thing. You see that all the time where in college football, they're getting thrown out of the game for leading with their head.
Right.
Professional football as well, they're getting fined, all these big fines for leading with their head. So it's had some impact. I think the equipment's important, but the proper technique is just as important as well.
Kristen, some of these players in the NFL who have received injuries and are involved in an action against the NFL based on those injuries, you guys at your facility have been designated as a place where they can go. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we were designated as an approved site for these NFL players to come and be evaluated. So basically what happens is they'll come, they'll have their evaluation, and then there's different levels that they are diagnosed with, for lack of better terms. Neurocognitive impairment, Parkinson's, ALS, things that have happened because of the injuries that they've occurred or because of the concussions that have occurred during their years of playing.
So that's quite a distinguished achievement, I think, to have you guys be recognized as a facility here in the Atlanta area that's capable of making those type of diagnosis and evaluations for these players.
Yes, I think so. There's not many places in the country that's approved. We have players flying in from all over the country to see us. This was one of the biggest things that Dr. Elamine, our new medical director, has brought to us at the Concussion Institute, is bringing these NFL players in to be treated by our team at the Concussion Institute. And not only to be evaluated, but to receive that treatment, because that is one thing that we do as well. It's just one thing to evaluate these guys and tell them, hey, this is what you have. But to be able to actually treat them and help them manage their symptoms is something that we pride ourselves on.
Right, and that's good for you guys. It's also good for the players who need that service as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Kristen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to concentrate on the work you're doing locally here at Gwinnett Medical Center and talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
We're talking today with Kristen Correa, who's the director of the sports medicine program at Gwinnett Medical Center. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy. What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. So how does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on it.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking today with Kristen Crea, who is the director of the sports medicine program at Gwinnett Medical Center. Kristen, before the break, we sort of talked and gave an overview of the whole concussion conversation in our society today. So in the second half of our show, I want to talk specifically about what you're doing here at Gwinnett Medical Center through the program you have here.
Sure.
When did this program start? What's your mission statement? What is it you're trying to do?
Sure. Well, our sports medicine program started for the second rendition in 2007. We started with 2 high schools and about 4 athletic trainers, and we've grown to what we are today 10 years later, where we have 70+ athletic trainers out in the community and 18 local high schools. Among Georgia Gwinnett College is among the colleges that we cover, and then the Atlanta Gladiators as well. So it's really important that Gwinnett Medical Center offers this benefit to the community. And that's really what our mission is, to provide this benefit to the community, to employ those athletic trainers out into the community so that they can, recognize injuries faster, frontline, so that they can treat and that they can get these athletes, or just non-athletes, because we have a lot of non-athletes that come to us too, the care that they need as fast as possible.
So, and I'm familiar with the trainers program you have, that you guys do, and y'all are all over everywhere with that, which is wonderful. But tell me all of the services, except for your new surprise that I want to talk about later, but tell me the basic services you guys provide to the community.
Sure. So, we have athletic trainers out at local high schools. We cover middle school sports, cover community events, soccer, lacrosse, tennis, 5Ks. We try to be out in the community as much as possible. Cover all the events over at the Infinite Energy Arena, the Gwinnett Braves. And then, of course, the Concussion Institute, which we opened 4 years ago. And the mission behind that was we were seeing so many concussions happening, and we really didn't have access to the right professionals in this area. And we were treating them and managing them the best that we could, but we recognized really quick that that was just not good enough because we were getting so many concussions.
Right.
That's about when the awareness started to reach its height. So we decided at Gwinnett Medical Center that we needed to do something about this, and we wanted to be on the front line, which is where the birth of the Concussion Institute came from. Now, the Concussion Institute, it's a multidisciplinary approach to concussion management. We have neurologists, we have neuropsychologists.
That all specialize in this field,
That all
right?
specialize in concussions. Certified athletic trainers. One of the things that we're really proud of is we have education coordinators, which are retired educators from schools in the community that write academic accommodation plans for these students when they go back to school, because the return to learn portion is just as important as the return to play portion.
Right. So I want to talk about one of the services you offer, because even though I've heard a lot about it, I'm still not sure I know what it is. When you talk about baseline testing relative to concussions, what does that actually mean?
So what we're doing is it's a computerized test, and it basically, it doesn't take a picture per se of your brain, but it shows us how your brain is functioning before injury. That's why it's very important. It's not what we use to treat concussions by any means, but it's a tool in the game. So what we do is it's about a 20 to 30 minute test on the computer, and they measure different aspects: reaction time, verbal memory, visual memory, and it really gives us a good picture of what your baseline is. That way, if you do happen to receive a concussion, we can go back, retest you, and then we can compare it to your baseline.
So ideally, the initial baseline would be of a normal functioning brain, I
That's
guess,
right.
and that's my verbiage, not yours,
That's
probably.
right.
And then, so it does give you a contrast from if an injury should occur, and you can
Yes.
see their specific changes.
Yes, it gives us something to compare it to. So during treatment, we'll do the impact test a couple of times, and we'll always go back and compare it and say, where are they compared to their baseline? Where are they when they were quote unquote normal?
Normal, right.
Right.
So Georgia High School Association, are all of their athletes required to have that baseline?
Georgia High School Association, I do not believe make it mandatory. Gwinnett County Public Schools do make it mandatory.
For all athletes or just football?
Nope, all athletes.
They have to go through the baselines, okay.
They do. We test them pre-season for all the athletes, and we also test down into the middle school as well.
Right, and you guys have even been involved in the youth football, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We test GFL as well
Yeah.
for the baseline testing. One of the greatest things that they've added this year is the pediatric baseline test, which we can test all the way down to ages 5 now, so 5 to 11. And that was FDA approved this year. And so we got our hands on that, and we're able to test even younger, which is important because, you know, we start sports very young.
Absolutely.
These days. And so if we can get those true baselines of the way that their brain's functioning, and they do happen to have a concussion, not just by playing sports. We've had people that have come in that have fallen out of back of cars,
Right,
and
right.
you know, then we are able to better manage them.
Right. Just a sort of a snapshot of a typical concussion case. Is that an extended period of time that athlete would receive treatment for that concussion, or does it vary from case to case?
Yeah, it varies from case to case. You know, there's a saying, if you've seen one concussion, you've seen one concussion. Because it varies from case to case. You know, it depends. You know, there can be some underlying issues that affect their treatment and prolong their treatment. You know, migraines, learning disabilities, ADD, ADHD, that can always prolong treatment. Not all the time, but it can. History of previous concussions can prolong it as well.
Right.
So it's just hard to say, you know. Sometimes you see what you feel like is a minor injury, and you're like, oh, you should be back soon, and those are the ones that take a long time. And sometimes you see someone that gets hit hard,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, they're going to be out for a while, and they recover fine.
Well, you know what? I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say something about signs and symptoms of concussion. And again, I know, as you said, if you've seen one concussion, you've seen one. But is there a basic description of some symptoms if a person may have been a victim of concussion that they should be aware of?
Sure. I think it's important to note that you don't have to lose consciousness to have a concussion.
Right.
I know back when I was in school, that was one of our grades of concussion back then. Did they lose consciousness? And that's just not the case anymore. You don't have to lose consciousness to have a concussion. You know, the basic symptoms that we see, and now these vary from patient to patient.
Right.
Headache, memory loss, fogginess, dizzy, ringing in the ears, sensitive to noise, sensitive to light. So those are a lot, sleep disturbances. Those are a lot that we see in a typical patient. But like I said, people can have one or they can have 20. It's just hard to tell.
Yeah. Let's talk about another subject that's very much in the news now. The sports medicine program at Gwinnett Medical Center has always, in my circle and yours particularly, has always received such high acclaims of the work they're doing. We know now that there's a pending merger between Gwinnett Medical Center and Northside.
Yes.
Is that, for the sports medicine program, is that good news, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yes, I think it's good news. I'm very excited about the pending merger. I think one of the draws that Northside had with Gwinnett was our sports medicine and concussion program.
Yes.
Up until now, they didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that they truly want. It gives us the ability to expand our reach across not only Gwinnett County, but outside of Gwinnett County, into Cherokee and Forsyth and Fulton and DeKalb, where these athletes don't have that level of access to care. And now with this merger, it's going to give us that access, to this type of care.
Yeah, well, we'll be watching that closely and hope that it does have the positive results you're looking for, and I'm sure that it will. So let's just shoot forward a little bit about something very exciting that just happened with the sports medicine program at Gwinnett Medical Center. As you talked about that expansion, trying to serve those people who don't have the services that we're so fortunate to have here in Gwinnett, you guys just launched a new tool to do that. Tell us all about that.
We did. We launched a sports medicine and concussion caravan. It's very exciting. It was about 10 months in the making from start to finish. And, the vision behind that was really to go, like you said, to go outside and give this access to care to people who don't have that access.
Right.
I've gone to many of different meetings and presented on our sports medicine and concussion institute, and people always come up to me and say, how can I get my athletes baseline tested, or how can I get involved in something like this? And up until now, I've just kind of had to be like, well, I'll find a resource for you, or I can help you in this way. But now this gives us the ability to take our show on the road and go down, and we can provide baseline testing, and we can provide treatment in that caravan. We can do sports physicals, we can do wellness checks, we can do corporate wellness, baseline testing. We have a full computer lab in there where we can do pediatric and adult and sport baseline testing. We can do, we have a full athletic training room like you would see in any college setting or any high school setting. And so we're able to treat, we're able to do rehabilitation, we can tape. So it's pretty amazing that we are able to provide this access outside of Gwinnett County now.
Well, and you call it a van, but we both know that that's not really, I've had a van before, and I've seen that thing. That's not a van.
Yeah, it's monstrous.
It's monstrous. It's a bus is what it is. And so that's exciting news to know that we have that here, and also something you can carry forward too, as you said, to serve those who don't have the same opportunities we have in Gwinnett to receive those treatments.
Absolutely.
So, Kristen, if there's people watching today who have, more interest and want more information about the sports medicine program, what's your website where they can go on there and take a look at that?
Sure. They can visit us at www.gwinnettmedicalcenter.com/sports, or they can call us at 678-312-7880.
And if anybody wants to come for a tour, you guys welcome that, I'm sure, as well.
Absolutely. We love to show off.
Yeah, well, good. Well, thank you for being with us. We're out of time, but we appreciate so much you coming and giving us an update on what truly is a very important topic, not only in sports, but in our society today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. That's all the time we have today. If you have comments about this show or ideas about future shows, you can reach us at the phone number or the email address shown at the end of the show. Thanks for being with us. I'm Stan Hall. See you next time and get in the game. Goodbye.